Hey, everybody, and welcome to Rangers Nation's podcast. Today's episode is Life in the Big Leagues. Yep, it's Life in the Big Leagues. It's a former Ranger roundtable. We talked about this. We were going to go live out in there before COVID came around at Texas Live, and we had a few guys, these three, that had semi-confirmed they were going to try to do this, and now we're at home, so we decided we'd do this virtually. And so we're going to do it now through virtual. We're going to do this thing, and I got three people with me. First of all, first guy, you know, the Shigon hitting guru. Everyone knows that one. He's been 9 years in the big leagues with the Rangers, Red Sox, and Blue Jays and Rockies. He's a career 290 hitter, and his claim to fame is that apparently he got Rusty Greer called up to the major leagues. Welcome now with me, Jeff Frye. What's going on, bud?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? It is a fact, too. If you want me to tell that story, I will.
We're going to talk about that. Also, also with us, we got first-round draft pick, 19th overall, 1991, 8 years in the big leagues with the Texas Rangers and the Angels, and now the manager. And I'm going to try to say this. I don't think I can say it. You said it that day, Benji. It's Benji Gil with Tomateros Days. How do you say that?
The Culiacan. Just say where Chapo's from.
Chapo's from. Where Chapo's from. He's currently the manager. You know, it's Benji Gil. Benji, thanks for coming back.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's good to be here.
Let me ask this. So I know that Major League's thinking about trying to get started right now. Where are y'all in the Mexican League?
We're basically just waiting for whatever happens in the big leagues will be a trickle-down effect to see what happens in winter ball, and just like the minor leagues and winter ball and summer league in Mexico as well. So
okay, yeah,
I
didn't know.
Anxiously waiting.
I can imagine. And then we got Texas Ranger Hall of Famer. He was 9 years in the big leagues with the Texas Rangers, 10th round draft pick out of the University of Montevallo. How do you say that? Montevallo. We've talked about that before. Career 305 hitter. Of course, welcome first time with this group with me. It's Rusty Greer. Rusty, what's going on, sir?
How's everybody? I'm glad to be here.
Thanks for coming on. Okay, now here's what I want to do. So for someone like me that played a little ball and never quite had the talent to go above 2 days in college, I want y'all to make me jealous. So I decided I thought I might try to open this up with the Ranger fans to see if they want to ask questions. And I thought, I'm going to be selfish. I want to ask questions what it would have been like when I was in the big leagues, if I was in the big leagues, what life was like for y'all. But before we get to that, I'm going to ask a couple questions before we start our baseball rundown. Which one of you three is the best golfer?
Benji.
Jeff.
I will excuse myself from that question because I'm not that.
Unless we're betting.
Rusty's allergic to golf.
You don't play at all, Greer?
Not at all.
Not at all. Okay, so which
I
one?
know who the worst golfer is. I can tell you that.
Who's that?
And I'll tell you what,
that's you. Well, me. Hey, I'm in this conversation. I might challenge you for that.
And he had the prettiest baseball swing that looked most like a golfer.
Sure.
Well, the hitting guru can tell you. Can you break down Rusty's swing? Was that the way it was supposed to happen there, Fry?
Yeah, Rusty was a diver.
A diver.
Stood off and play and dove in, and if you wanted to get Rusty out, you had to pitch him inside, and guys can't consistently pitch inside. So he hit 305. There you go.
Did he supinate enough?
Yeah, he snapped it. He was snapping it all over the yard.
Okay, so which one of you three has the best barbecues or crawfish boils? Now, Fry, you brag about yours.
I don't know about barbecue. I'm a crawfish aficionado.
Aficionado?
Yeah.
I'll take the barbecue. I'm good with brisket and ribs, and I'm good with that.
Well, you're an Alabama guy too, so that might be some good barbecue there. Okay, so tell me about nicknames. Now, I had always heard of you, Rusty, as the Red Baron. They started calling you Rojo when we were on that that text yesterday. Is that your official nickname, Rojo?
Well, yeah, with the players, but Mark Holtz, he gave me the Red Baron. But a guy named who's a catching instructor way back in the late '80s and early '90s with the Rangers, Chino Carahia, he started calling me Rojo, and so that just stuck amongst the coaches and the players and all that stuff. So that's where I got that name.
All right, Frito, is that yours, Fry? Frito?
It's I've had a few. When I was with the Rangers, it was Weasel at first.
Yeah, that's right.
And then it was Fry Daddy. It's always been Fry Daddy. And then when I went to Boston, Mike Stanley started calling me Frito. So Frito's kind of where I am now. Who knows what the next one is? She gone, maybe.
All right, Benji, what's yours?
You know what? didn't really ever have one. I don't know why. I mean, Benji's good enough, I guess, or not. In Mexico, they call him Matador.
Matador?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's time to get into baseball. So now Jeff and Benji have already told me the story. We're going to have them do it again in just a second. This would normally be on your bio when I do that with you, Rusty. We'll talk about it again. But we're going to talk about, since we're going to talk all about big leagues today, I want to talk about the day you got called up. Benji, I know yours is a little different from theirs in the fact that, and I want you to tell that story. You didn't get called up in the middle of the year. You weren't supposed to start the season there, and injury did that. And we'll talk about that. But Jeff, tell us about the day you got called up.
Again?
Yeah. Oh, this is for new. This is new.
I think everybody's tired of hearing this story.
I don't care. I'm forcing it.
Okay, I'll give you the Cliff Notes version, but I was in Louisville, AAA for Oklahoma City in 1992, playing the Louisville Cardinals, and just a normal day. And you guys, Benji and Rusty, we used to take the phones off the hook in our rooms or get a do not disturb because we stayed up pretty late. We wanted to sleep in most mornings. So this particular morning, the phone was on the hook, and all of a sudden it rang at 9 a.m, which is usually pissed us off pretty bad, getting woke up that early in the morning. And I was rooming with a guy named Bobby Brower. You guys remember Bobby Brower?
Yeah.
And I just picked up the phone because it was closest to my bed, and it was our manager, Tommy Thompson. And Tommy was, a character to say the least. And he goes, "Hey, big boy," he goes, "you're not going to the AAA All-Star game. You're going to another level. Come up to my room." And I didn't say anything. I just looked at Bobby Brower, and he goes, "You're going to the big leagues, and you're not coming back either." So I was like, oh my gosh. So I went up to Tommy's room. He said, "I'm getting called to the big leagues. I had to go to the stadium, get all my stuff." They called up me and Brian Bohannon the same time, and we flew to Arlington or Dallas, and then they picked us up, got to the field at 5:30 for a 7 o'clock game. And BP was over at 6, I think. And they said, "Do you want to hurry up and get out there for BP?" And I was like, "Man, I don't think I have a chance to get out there. I'll try to make it for infield," which was at 6:10. And they said, "Well, go check out the lineup." And I went over looked at the little board we had, a little dry erase board with the lineup on there, and said I was leading off, playing second, and Nolan Ryan was pitching for us.
That's awesome.
It was like right into the fire. I took in the field and went out and had, a great game, 2 for 3, 3 runs scored, a triple RBI, player of the game. And it was pretty much all downhill after that.
and all because of Teacher Man, right? He got you some.
Oh yeah, yes, I was snapping it.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm not supposed to be there.
No,
Benji, tell yours again. Now you kind of got in a different story as an injury, right? You weren't even supposed to be in the big leagues that year.
Yeah, I got to spring training in '93, hoping, because I had played in Gastonia, North Carolina in the South Atlantic League, which is our low A ball, the year before. And I had a good year, so I was hopeful that I would be able to have a good spring training and be able to make the Double A club,
right.
Which is where Rusty was that year. And we had a really good ball club that year. And I was going to have to do really well because at the time, Chris Colon was shortstop. I guess they were trying to turn him into a second baseman. So it was going to be a pretty good jump for me. And Manny Lee didn't show up. He had visa problems supposedly, and then so I got a little bit more playing time in spring training than I was supposed to. Stuck around a little bit longer. I was doing well, and then he got there, and I think 3 or 4 days later he hurt his oblique. They had already sent some guys down, and then it allowed for me to stay on at the big league with the big league club for a little while longer, and I continued to do well. And before you know it, he wasn't ready to start the season, and it was I think between Mario Diaz and myself on who was going to play short, and maybe I outplayed him, or maybe I was more of better suited to play shortstop every day, and ended up making the ball club out of spring training. So it was a huge surprise to me.
Oh yeah, so I could imagine, especially if your thought was, man, I want to start in Double A. This would be awesome, and then you're in
Yeah,
Arlington starting
right.
that year. Okay, Rusty, before Jeff Frye changed your whole life for you and got you called up to the big leagues, tell us about how you found out about the call. You were going to the big leagues. Tell us what happened.
I was the last player cut in spring training in '94, so I actually came and played in the scrimmage games or the inter squad games between the Mets here.
You and I talked about that.
Yeah, at the ballpark.
Yep.
And so went to AAA and was there, and we were in New Orleans, and I had jumped into a wall trying to catch a ball, and I really messed my ankle up, right? And so, but I didn't say nothing to anybody, and I taped it, and Bobby Jones, who's a manager in Oklahoma City, DH'd me for 3 days. Well, the third day, I'm in the shower, and he calls me in his office, and I literally go hobbling in there, and he said, this is long ago, not sure, but I'll make it short. Mm-hmm. He basically, the whole coaching staff was in there, and he basically said, you're hurt, aren't you? And I'm like, no, I'm not. I can play. I can DH. You know, I mean, I can run full speed. And he said, he talked on, and he's just really, you got to know Bobby Jones, but he was really just cussing me up one side down the other, basically. And all the coaches in there laughing at me, right? And I started getting mad. And I started calling him, like, what are you laughing at, man? You know, we started getting into it. And he said, so you think you can play at the time I was playing right field, which we all know I'm not a right fielder, but I was playing right field. He said, you think you can play right field in the big leagues tomorrow? And I said, yeah, I can. And he said, well, pack your stuff. You're going to the big leagues. All right. So all the coaches started busting out laughing at me. And I told him, I said, you better not be effing kidding me. You know?
Yeah.
And so he said, I'm not. So anyways, started in Oakland. I get to the ballpark, and you know, I'm excited to be there. I hadn't slept all night. Darren Oliver's my roommate. Back then you had roommates. And so I get there to the ballpark. Jackie Moore is the bench coach. Kevin Keeney's man. Jackie Moore's the bench coach. He came up and said, congratulations, kid. He said, you ready to play? And I said, what am I going to say? I said, yes, sir. And he said, good, you're hitting second, playing right. And my heart went in my throat. So anyways, started the game. Kevin Kennedy never bunted in my life. Kevin Kennedy makes me bunt my first at bat, and I don't get it down. So my next at bat, I wound up in a home run, my first hit. So I was kind of like Jeff. Had 3 hits that game, had 5 RBIs, and kind of kept playing from there. So really good night.
That's incredible. In fact, I don't know if you remember this, Rusty. I know people come up and talk to you all the time, but a couple years ago, Kingsford Charcoal had this little.
Yeah.
That's where I talked to. First time I'd ever laid eyes on Rusty, it was at that exhibition game when they were playing before the season started in '94. They were opening the ballpark, and you came up. It was towards the end of the game. They were running people in, and first time I'd ever seen one hit on that green berm in center field. Yeah. And then my next thought was, who the hell is Rusty Greer? Who is this guy? I didn't know who he was. And, there was a lot of prospect stuff back then, but it's not like today where you practically know who they are because of all the online stuff.
Yeah, the funny thing is in that game, they played like 10 or 12 innings, right?
Yeah.
So by like the 6th inning, all the starters are going, God, I'm ready to get out. Can I, get down, get my 3 at-bats? And me and like 2 other guys, we're just rushing to the plate. Like, I'll take your AB. I'll go. I'm just about 15 at-bats.
Yeah. I remember that well. Okay. So obviously there's a big difference between the minor leagues and the major leagues, and we all know that. I want to know the first thing that you noticed that was the biggest difference when you first got to the big leagues. What was the first thing that you went, oh, wow, we're in a new thing here? Let's start with Rusty this time.
Ballpark.
The ballpark.
Being bigger. Yeah.
Being in Oakland, I guess. And yeah.
Ballpark and fans, just having a bunch of fans in the ballpark.
What about you, Benji?
I'll tell you what, the way you travel. Traveling was way, way different. I mean, it's beyond first class to when you're in the minor leagues. It's just stack them and go.
Wait, for you went from the bus leagues, right? Because I mean, Gastonia, that was the buses. Now AAA,
oh, yeah.
Back then, did AAA fly?
Yeah, and the PCL, because it's actually way more, and not to step in front of these guys, but the PCL is so spread out compared to the international league that I don't even think there was a bus ride in the PCL at the time.
Yeah, the international league plays all up there in the east, out in the northeast there. What about you, Frye? What was the first thing you noticed when you got to the big leagues? The big thing you noticed, you were like, holy cow.
The speed of the game. the speed of the game was the first time I went to turn a double play, and the dude was about to slide, and I was like, oh my gosh, how did he get here so fast? And I mean, and what Benji was saying, I think you too, Rusty. I think it was American Association, right? When we got called up. Yeah. So Oklahoma City was in the American Association, and we did bus some, but we mostly took flights, and they were pretty crappy. 4 a.m. Nothing worse than the 4 a.m. bus picking you up at the hotel, going wait 2 hours at the airport for a layover flight, and then
7:30.
Then you get to the field. You get to your hotel room about 2, and you're an absolute zombie. You got to take a nap before you go to the field. So it's a lot different travel for sure.
Okay, so so we're in the big leagues. We're going to stay in the big leagues the whole time now. So now I want each of you to take me on a 7:05, which was the normal, or back then it might have been some we did at 7:35 if I remember correctly. But in either case, tell me on a home game, take me through your entire day. Let's start with you, Benji. When you got up, what was your day like? You got up at a certain time. You were at home. You had a game that night in Arlington. How did your day go?
Yeah, probably woke up 11-ish, 11, 12. Go get a bite to eat. Back then, I don't even think we had video games. So it was get up, just kind of clean up, go get something to eat, go to the ballpark, go work on hitting, go get some cuts in the cages, and maybe work out a little bit, stretch out, depending if you had some kind of issue. Because early in the year, maybe not so much, but especially playing in Texas, man, those late days in July and August, it doesn't matter how young you are and how in great shape you are. We had the advantage of having a great clubhouse, so you'd have to go and get in the pool or do something just to get you ready for the game, and then get ready for practice. Obviously, you'd find out who you were pitching, maybe visualize a little bit of who you were going to face, and try and remember what you've done or what they've done against you.
Anything different, you guys, from that? I mean, what time were y'all usually at the ballpark?
2.
Yeah, I got up a little bit early. I got up about 9 o'clock every day, and I didn't do a whole lot. I got up and moved around, and we'd go to lunch, and I'd go to the ballpark. A little bit different on the road for me than it was at home. I'd go to the ballpark about 2:30. On the road, I would go eat lunch and go straight to the ballpark. Get there sometimes 12:30, 1 o'clock. So, yeah, all day there. A lot of people think you go on road trips and go sightseeing and all that stuff, but it's pretty much hotel to the clubhouse, back to the hotel.
Jeff, anything different there?
Yeah, not much different. It is. I mean, it's a little bit different on the road or at home.
That was the next question, so you're going right into it. So was the road different?
Yeah, it was different. We usually stayed up later on the road. I won't say why. But
can I guess?
No guesses.
Okay, all right.
But anyway, but it was, on the road, I generally would get up and go eat. And when I was first in the big leagues, I mean, it was me and Rusty and Darren Oliver. On the road, we would pretty much go out to have lunch together every day. And then we'd go to the field early. But it was basically like Benji said, get up 11 or 12, get something to eat. At home, I would just I tried not to think about the game too much because I kind of didn't want to get myself psyched up and get nervous and stuff. So I just go do something to keep my mind off the game, and maybe go to the mall or go, I was married, so I do something with my wife and my daughter and stuff to just kind of keep your mind off the game. Because once you get there, it's almost like when you get there at 2, the tension starts building all the way up to when you get to 7:05, and then you're locked in at that point. And,
right.
I would get to the field and, throw some shorts on, get in the whirlpool, whatever. I didn't like to hit a lot before the games. I kind of hit during BP and stuff. And later, when I was there for a while, I felt more comfortable. Then I'd get there early and play cards for a couple hours till 5 minutes before stretch, and you go throw your uni on and go out and stretch and get after it.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll have a part in a little bit where we get into the travel part of it. Now I want to talk about what your travel was like. So I've got credentials. So I've been in the clubhouse after a game and I see where the players go back at the old new ballpark, the one that's behind me here. I thought you wouldn't want to look at my wife's art. So I put that thing behind me, but I know that room through the clubhouse back to the back, after the game, you see players come out of there with something to drink and some food or all of that. Was there just one choice? Was it buffet style? What did they have back there for you guys?
It was buffet style. Basically, when we were there, it first came up, it was Joe Macco, and then Zach Manassian, he took Joe's spot. And so pretty much on the homestand, every night there's a different meal catered in, and then at that point in time, black eyed pea, barbecue, Mexican food, and then on Sunday day games, you'd have breakfast, donuts, that kind of stuff. So it's something different every night. I think that's where I ate a lot of my meals was in the clubhouse, especially on the road. And then besides the food, there was everything you could imagine. It was Otis Spunkmeyer cookies, a big pizza thing, ice cream thing, so a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So, okay. And so when you're on the road, what was it like? Who had the best food on the road when you did that?
I know who had the worst. I don't know about the best.
Who was the worst?
To me, the worst in the big leagues was Cleveland, the Cy,
but they had good banana bread.
And the worst in AAA was Indianapolis. You couldn't even eat in Indianapolis. The guy would be thawing out the food that he's cooking that night in the shower in a pot when we got there. It's like, I ain't eating this crap.
Yeah, the old stadium, right? That was terrible. That was terrible.
I mean, some of those old places, like, remember how bad Detroit was?
Yeah.
Detroit was terrible.
I thought New York had good food. I liked Chicago's food. Anyway, days is always the pizza. I'd eat about 15 pieces.
Oh, I liked Milwaukee, the brats.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Those were
You're talking to a fat guy here. Well, I'm on the downturn, but anyway.
Baltimore. I don't know if you guys remember, like it almost seemed like at least one day out of the series, they'd bring in crab cakes that were incredible.
Yeah. They had those at the stadium. My wife and I went up there to watch a game at Baltimore, and they had some crab cakes out there. That's some good stuff there.
That was my favorite place to go in the summertime because I would go and get some of the blue crab.
Yeah.
Bring it to the field and eat it at the field before BP.
Yeah. You guys remember that huge cabinet Seattle used to have they had it was like a candy shop.
Yeah.
It was a huge, like, just plywood cabinet. It looked like nothing, like a tool shed almost. It looked like you open it up and it was every damn candy and gum that you could ever think of. It was, that's why we got cavities. We all have dental. It was a good dental program.
I know the Rays, Tampa Bay had the best beer. They had Presidente and all the good imported beers and stuff. And you could also get a haircut there. Remember?
Yeah, you get a haircut. Day games were awesome. They had do you remember they had like a guy that actually came in and made omelets however you ordered it?
That was back before they had the chef. Now everybody's got their own chef.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Something special. Yeah.
Yep.
Honestly, like a day game, a weekend day game, we would show up at the field. There'd be 2 boxes of donuts, maybe a bowl of fruit, and you'd eat like 2 sinkers, 2 chocolate donuts, get a cup of coffee, go get them.
Now that's on the road?
Yes.
Okay. Benji bailed out there a second. Let's see if
there
he is. He's back. There he is. All right, you guys just switched on me there. That's all right.
I'll tell you what, man, if I was a clubhouse manager back in those days, I would have set up like a Bloody Mary bar.
I love Bloody Marys. That would have been good.
You would have gotten good tips.
Now, because y'all tipped them all, right? When you left the clubhouse, you tipped them all.
Yep. That's gone away. They changed that now.
Really?
I know.
You didn't know that, Rojo?
Different age.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, dude. They've screwed those guys. Those guys now get paid. The clubbies now get paid by the team.
Huh.
And it comes right out of the players' checks. And they don't tip anymore. I used to pay $100 a day on the road.
Yeah, that's what I paid. $100 a day.
Yep.
Holy cow. Wow. I didn't know that either. And of course, why would I? But that's, yeah, I know how they work. Let me ask you this. So on getaway days, now I've seen it. Benji and Jeff, now Rusty, you never played at the old stadium, right? The very old one.
No, I did not. No.
You didn't do that. Y'all were there. Tell me about getaway day. When you're in the big leagues on getaway day, so you've gone home, you've had to pack, get everything ready to go, because after the game, whether it's day or not, after the game, you're going to be going to the airport to get on a plane to go. Do you handle your luggage from the car, or is someone – because I know where you guys parked at this stadium here, where you guys all had that parking. Was someone there to get your luggage when you got out, or did you run it into the clubhouse? How did that work?
We brought in the clubhouse ourselves. I mean, once we brought it in, they pretty much took it from there. They would take it after the game, put it on the truck or whatever, and we'd never see it again or touch it again, honestly, until the bellboy delivered it to your room.
Delivered it to your room. Well, I noticed now this is this year's team. When I was down there after the game, we'd go down to try to talk to them or do anything. They all had bags out. I guess that's equipment, throwing cleats and gloves and all of that. And they got them laid out. It looks like someone's probably going to come back and pick that up. But so you didn't see it till you got to where you were going. You never saw your bag again till you were at the hotel.
Right.
Well, your personal bag, right?
Yeah, your personal
equipment bag. You don't see it till the next day you get to the ballpark.
Yeah, but the equipment was, I mean, a lot of times they would pack most of your equipment for you too. You know, extra shoes and things like that. I always was particular, and I wanted to pack my gloves because I had that little plastic deal you stick inside your glove or put some balls in there so they don't get smashed.
Right.
You know, and you show up and your gamer looks like a wet newspaper. You're like, oh my goodness. But I was pretty particular on that kind of stuff. But they would put all your road pants, your road jerseys, and things like that would already be packed in your bag. You just had to put your batting gloves and spikes and stuff like that.
Well, so let me ask you this: if you go on a road trip, now you have a suitcase and you're going to be gone 12 days on a road trip. I have to think that you either had a ton of luggage, or did y'all have a laundry service? Someone helped y'all get some clothes clean while you were on the road that y'all could use? Because it's hard to pack for 15 days or 12 days.
You had one suitcase. And they had laundry service at the hotel. I never used it. I just packed them up and
just stuffed it all in.
Yeah, because at that point there's no weight. I mean, not paying for your weight bag and your weight, just stuffed it full. And so it's you learn what you can live with and what you can live without, for sure.
Yeah, and there's no doubt. I used to travel, and I probably traveled about as much as y'all did, but I did it all year. You just did it for 6 months. But yeah, I became a professional packer. When me and the wife go anywhere, I can have it done in 10 minutes, and then she's got to get all her stuff together. I'm ready to go.
One of the issues you run into is every team you play for has different rules as far as dress codes. Like
I was about to ask, was there a uniform for the plane rides? Was there a dress code?
Yeah, there was. I mean, but it was different from team to team. You know, you had to wear, basically slacks and a sport coat. You didn't have to wear a tie, but you had to have a nice shirt and basically just look professional. And on the road, some teams let you wear jeans. Some teams don't. You'll have to wear khakis or something like that. But I have a really funny story that all three of you guys would like, if you don't mind me telling you.
No, let's go. There's no time limit here.
Okay, so I mean, a lot of times when you're on a long road trip, a week is pretty easy to pack for. But when you're on like a 3-city, 10-game road trip, 10 days or whatever, a lot of times you're down to the bare minimum in your clothes at the end of the road trip, So we're in Toronto. I'm playing with the Rangers. And I am down to like my last pair of jeans, and they're not very good. They're kind of just little like threads hanging off the bottom. And I was like, all right, we got a day game. I'm going to sneak in, hurry up, take my pants off so nobody sees me, and get out of there and not get in trouble. So I come walking in the training room, and there's Will Clark. He already had his extra special coffee working and was riding the bike, and I'd like sneak in half asleep like we usually are on a road trip on a day game. We're half asleep. And all of a sudden I'm in there putting my stuff. Y'all remember that little deal. You put your wallet and stuff like that in Toronto.
Yeah.
And you lock it. So I walk in there, and all of a sudden I hear this voice that goes, "Don't let Johnny Oates see you in those jeans." And I'm like, oh my. And so I just kind of turned around. I kept taking my watch off and stuff. And I'm like, "Hey, Thrill," I said, "you worry about Will Clark and I'll worry about Jeff Frye. We'll be just fine." And he just went, "What?" He started screaming at me. He was so mad at me because I just like real calm and collected and said it. And I just kind of walked out of there, smiled at him. He was so mad at me.
Okay, what did you guys – okay, so let me ask you this. So on the plane rides – well, I want to know. So when you guys would finish a night game and you were getting out that night – so I know day games are different, but on a night game, when you guys you go in, you get ready, from the time the game ends, how long is it before you're on the plane? Is it 3 hours where you're on the plane?
No.
Hour and 20 minutes maybe, guys?
Bus leaves in an hour, and then you're on the plane, 20 minutes later.
It depended on what city we were in. I mean, some places like Toronto is like an hour or longer bus ride if it's a night game because you have to fly out of a certain airport. Or LA could be that way sometimes too, San Diego, where you have to go to LAX or something like that. But usually it was probably, what do you think, like 45 minutes after the game we're leaving, and then 30 minutes or less to the airport usually.
Yeah. That's that. You get accustomed to find out how long it is to the airport. And that just depends how full your paper bag is on the way to the airport or not.
What was in the paper bag? Malted beverages, maybe, or
soda pop.
Liquids to stay hydrated.
Liquid hydration. Okay, you got to get hydrated. I know what that is. Let me ask you now. Jeff had a funny story about what he'd do, but tell me about plane rides. What was the routine? What did you guys usually do on the plane? If it wasn't 3 o'clock in the morning, you were asleep.
I guess early in our career is play cards, or that's pretty much it. I mean, and then Berkey playing. Maybe he had the first edition of the Bose stereo pumping in the back.
Yeah.
And then I think later when you got closer, like to 2000s, is guys started having their own like personal DVD players, and guys would watch movies. But playing cards and just talking and laughing it up. I mean, that was some of the best times that you have, other than the outside of the competition, right? Is where you bond with your teammates. So the plane rides were awesome.
Yeah. He's downplaying a little bit. The plane rides were fun. I mean, they were fun.
Yeah, they were really fun.
Nuts.
Yeah.
They're nuts. I remember playing with Rusty when I was with the Rangers. We played in the B card game, which means we were the low stakes card game where all the Palmero and all these other dudes were playing $100 a hand. We're playing $1 a hand. I remember this very vividly because I think it was like me, you, and Darren. I don't remember who else played Rojo, but it was like Dollar Annie. And, you name your own game. So one guy might say, all right, this round we're playing Boo-Ray, or this time we're playing Jacks Are Better. And if you didn't know the game, you just kind of learned. But Rojo would go, I don't know that game. I'm sitting out. I'm not going to play this hand. We're like, Rojo, it's $1. I don't care. I'm not playing this hand.
He was from Alabama, man. He was watching those dollars at that time.
They just gave us $700 worth of meal money. Come on, Rojo.
But that's also when he got his other nickname, right? Remember Culo Rojo?
Yeah. Culo Rojo.
Yeah.
But in Boston,
nicknamed by the Latin players.
when I was in Boston, we would have 2 card games. Okay. And we would take the seats apart, and all the flight attendants would get pissed off. So you couldn't have 5 or 6 people playing in a card game, and how the seats are on an airplane, unless you push down one of the middle seats or maybe 2 of them. And a lot of them didn't go all the way down. So I would bring a socket set.
Yeah, you told me about this. This is funny.
And take the bolt out of the seat and push it all the way down. We'd use a cushion for the middle, put a couple of the blankets that they had, and we'd had a pristine card table. And the problem was when we landed, we were all semi-intoxicated, and we didn't want to
no, say it ain't so.
Put the seat back together, so we just left it there, and they were always pissed at us.
Did you usually sit in the same seat? I mean, like when you got on the plane. Now, when y'all played for the Rangers, did they have their own plane at the time? I know they do now. Did they then, or did y'all just would?
Mm-mm.
So you
think
just had a
TWA was the plane we flew mostly.
do what now?
TWA was the airline we flew mostly.
TWA. So y'all would just charter. Okay. So I know that. So I noticed this at the clubhouse too, but I wondered about it when on the plane. Or did they take, like, you guys? We all like our own malted beverages that we like, or certain beers we like, or whatever. In the clubhouse, at the ballpark, and on the plane, did they ever come to y'all and say, "Hey, what is it you like to drink?" So we make sure we have something for you? Or was that they did? Did they do that?
Yep.
Yeah, every day.
Yep.
Yeah, they better have too. Even the guys not flying.
Yeah. Even as a road, like when I was playing for the Red Sox and I came to Arlington to play the Rangers, those guys knew me. After the game, there was a 6-pack in a little bucket sitting right next to my locker.
Sitting right next to it, huh? Well, because I noticed that like last year it was Jesse Chavez would come out with a Corona, and somebody'd come out with a Bud Light, and somebody'd have, and I was like, either they have a fully stocked bar behind that wall, or they're getting orders or something. That's what so on the plane they did that too. They'd make sure on the plane they'd get your order and make sure, and then TWA would make sure they have it, or the Rangers would provide it.
Yeah. Well, the big guys for sure. Big guys got what they want all the time. And some of those peons had to deal with what they had, but so they just had it.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, I show up in Boston when I went from the Rangers to Boston. After my first game playing for the Red Sox, I said, "Where's the beer at?" And they said, "Oh, we're not allowed to have beer in the locker room." I was like, "What?" I was like, "I'm not playing for this team."
No one. Hey, no wonder they come here. No wonder they couldn't win back then.
I'm telling you, dude, that was real. So I had to like sneak back and where the equipment manager back by the where he did the laundry, he had like a little ice chest. So I'd sneak back there. He goes, "Here you go, Frito." Joe Cochran.
Okay, so when you guys travel, what was your favorite place to play on the road? Where was the favorite place to play?
I'll tell you, I love playing at Yankee Stadium. Just the history of it. The clubhouse wasn't great, but just the history of it, and it was just a special place for me. And there's so many great cities. Like Seattle, if you go early or late in the year, there's not really much you can do. But if you go during the summer, it's a beautiful city. It's a great city. It's got great food.
That's what I've heard.
Other than some of the hills walking, that's about the only thing that sucked. But I mean, there's there's different cities that have different times of the year that I think are better suited for them. Toronto, if you go to Toronto in the summer, I mean, Frida, you can elaborate to that. You played there, but I mean, I remember going to Yorkville when we were in the summer because the weather was perfect. Going eating outside and stuff like that.
Okay, what is Yorkville? Is that a restaurant? Is that a
It was a part, right? Maybe 15 minutes from where we stayed, just a cab ride, and it seemed like very European. I've never been in Europe, but it seemed very European, and had great food and shops where you could walk around. Because I mean, that's pretty much back then. That's how we spent our days, is just walking around or going to the mall, and not really sightseeing, but just kind of just being out and people watching and sitting around eating.
You remember Toronto? You remember one thing about Toronto? They had the Ralph Lauren factory.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I couldn't wait to go there, dude.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I wore nothing but Ralph Lauren for about 4 years, man.
I know. I think my two favorite, I mean, I liked going to Boston as a visiting player. I loved playing there as a Red Sox player, but I think my two favorites were probably, I loved going to Camden Yards.
That's a cool stadium.
I like Jacobs Field.
I've been there too. That's pretty neat.
Play ping pong in the clubhouse.
Absolutely.
Where's that, Cleveland?
Right by the locker. I remember playing ping pong one time during the game. They said, "Frye, you're pinch hitting." I took my jacket off and threw my ping pong. I was running through the dugout, and I was up, and I grabbed my helmet, grabbed the bat, went up there, and hit a line drive base hit. I came back to the dugout, and Mike Stanley goes, "You're slowly becoming my hero."
Any place, Rusty, for you that was your favorite?
Yeah, I liked, believe it or not, I liked Old Detroit. as far as stadiums to
Wow.
play in. Old Detroit. I like the Kingdome. I like Fenway Park. Fenway Park is probably my favorite place to play. As far as city goes, I like Seattle. I like Boston was good. I like Chicago.
Yeah.
That was a good spot. So kind of your major spots there is were my favorites.
Yeah, I've gone to a lot of road games. Just my wife and I will go and see it. I think our favorite. We went to the new Yankee Stadium though. I had been to the old Yankee Stadium, which was great to do that. But I think one of our favorites that we really had fun in Baltimore. That was pretty neat. Boston, she's never been. I've been to Boston. In fact, I ran into you on the street in Boston, Rusty, one time. Me and an uncle were up there just watching, and I was like, I think that's Rusty Greer. You turned around and said hello. I know you don't remember that stuff, and you were young. That's back when Lee Stevens was on the team.
Yeah, Mr. Big Stuff.
Yeah, so I could remember that. So did y'all hang out together when you're on the road? Go do stuff together when you had a little bit of time? Sounds like y'all got to the clubhouse relatively early.
Yeah, you eat lunch with somebody every day, lunch or dinner every day. But you spend so much time together. It's you go to lunch, you go to the ballpark together, you come home together, you go eat dinner together. But you have your own little there's a team within a team. You have your own little group that
it's high school all over again, right?
Yeah, the young guys kind of hang out with the young guys. The veteran guys are with the veteran, and because at that point in time, I don't know how it is now, but at that point in time, they hazed you quite a bit, and you just kept your head below the firing line. And so you didn't say a word and roll with your young boys.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I can see how they hate Frito. I mean, he's the guy that you're getting under everyone's skin right now with the Shigon. I mean,
I'm not.
You're not afraid to speak your opinion, are you?
No, these two guys play with me. They know. I mean, I was always kind of a smart aleck kind of guy, but they knew I was just playing and having fun. I mean, you can't take this game seriously all the time. You got to be able to relax your mind a little bit and have some fun,
Absolutely. There's too many people sometimes that worry about what everyone else thinks of them. I told my wife, that's one of the things I tell her. She goes, you always seem more calm than I am, because at her job, I said, you know what? If someone doesn't like me, it's on them. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. I'll be just fine. So tell me your favorite places to eat on the road. Like there were certain restaurants that were really good. Like when I was in Cleveland, there was this place that made this big Reuben sandwich. That's what I remember. But were there certain places where you're like, every time we go to New York, I got to go eat at this place, or every time in Baltimore, I got to go eat at this place for lunch?
There's a lot of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
What was that place in Anaheim that had the great big spaghetti and chicken fried?
What was that? The pancakes were
like
3 feet wide.
I forget what it was called. My favorite restaurant in the big leagues was Ron's of Japan.
Yeah.
In Chicago.
Yeah.
Wow.
I love that place.
That
I
was
watched
awesome.
from Illinois. I'm going to go there. I wonder if that place is still going.
They have this lobster.
Oh, yeah.
This lobster that they put this egg yolk on it. They call it the cardiac sauce or whatever, and they stick the shell on top. The problem is you have to be within 10 minutes of a restroom afterwards. It's kind of if you have to walk as opposed to taking a couple-minute cab ride, I mean, you're pushing it for sure.
Or the cab ride could be dangerous if he gets stuck in traffic. It might be a problem.
Did you guys ever go to JT Hoyt's in Minnesota? Oh my gosh, I would go. I went there. I don't forget who I went with there the first time, and after I went the first time, I did not miss a road trip. Right. Every single road trip. In fact, a few years ago, I went to do a game with MLB Network or MLB with MLB, the prospect game against Cuba they had the pre-World Championships. They had a game there, and I went and did it, and I went there, and it was incredible. And the same waiter that had been there since like 98 or something, or 97 was still there, and he was like the main dog, and he had more stories than probably we do, because he got to see all of us drunk at the end of the night. He knew who we really were.
That's right.
My favorite was Lori's Diner in San Francisco.
Lori's Diner. We were in San Francisco last summer. Where is it? So it's in the city?
Yeah, it's downtown near the hotel. It's just a diner. It's just got pancakes, got everything.
Got
There's
everything.
a-
Okay, that's probably why. We would ask locals where to go. I guess Lori's never came up. We would always try to find a place that everybody, because everybody can go to, they say go to a certain place. We wanted to go to the locals and go, no, go to this place. This is that neat little place to go to. But we didn't go to Lori's Diner. Now, did you guys, y'all, I guess you never really got to sightsee when you were on the road, I guess, unless there was an off day or something?
Some guys played golf, but I never did. I mean, I really never did. I just went to the ballpark and came home. I ate and went back to the ballpark. I think that's what most guys did. Now, guys that go out and play, but no sightseeing,
I'll tell you, I got a story for you guys. So I had never seen the Statue of Liberty. And there was one time we were landing in New York. We were about to land, and something was going on in the runway, and we had to take another lap around New York City, and around Manhattan, and they let us know that, hey, you're coming up on the Statue of Liberty is going to be up here on your right hand side. And so I go, and I'm like trying to push my way through to the other side, and it's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I've never seen the Statue of Liberty. But the real funny thing is, so I had family come and visit me one year, and it was my cousin and her two kids, and so I'm supposed to be like their tour guide because I've been in New York now like 10 times, and I was explaining to my nephews, like, here's the Empire State Building and blah blah blah, and just BSing my way through the history of the Empire State Building, right? It turned out it was the Chrysler Building. All right. So they had to do a report later that year on the Empire State Building, and they had pictures of the Chrysler Building, and they made this whole big story. So they got a D because they were able to blame me. I made them fail their whatever test they had. But yeah, so it turned out my cousin called me, and she's like, hey, that trip that we did in New York. And yeah, what's going on? He goes, remember the Empire State Building you told him? I'm like, yeah. He goes, that's not the Empire State Building. I'm like, what are you talking about? I've been there many times. Of course I know what the Empire State Building. And she sent me a picture of the I guess the eagles that are off the corners of the Chrysler Building. I'm like, oh, so that's not? She's like, no, you need to go. Next time you're in New York, go to the Empire State Building so you know what the difference is. I was like, but
now,
yeah, so.
Now, I know it didn't happen all the time, but were you ever able to take your wives or family? Did they ever go on a road trip with you?
They have a family trip scheduled every year, usually one family trip, sometimes two, where families and kids get to go on the charter flight and things like that. And we all really dreaded that trip, to be quite frank, because there was
entertaining to do. Yeah.
Well, it was just it interrupted our normal routine, and so now we got kids all over the plane running around crazy, and now we got to, instead of just sleeping till noon and getting up and going to have lunch with your teammate, now you got to get up with your family, get them all ready to go, and it really messed up the routine.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. You know what they did in Anaheim, and I think this. Frida's are absolutely right, but it was worse the way they did it in Anaheim. Is the families could pick one trip a year. So there could be trips that you're on a road trip, and there might be one wife on one trip, there might be three wives on another trip, there might be. So it was bad. It wasn't the most ideal. I think when you have one, you kind of wrap your brain around that's when everybody's going to be on it.
Yeah.
Like I said, it wasn't good. I mean, we don't. I don't want to make it sound like we didn't want to be around our families, but it's a different. You have a way. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a routine. I could see where that would interrupt it.
Now, wives did go on trips. Like, wives went on a lot of trips, but they would fly together and do their own thing together all day, and would not.
Meet you there or something.
Yeah, meet us there. They wouldn't throw us out of the routine, and then so that did happen. But that family trip, it was just a routine buster for sure.
Oh man. Okay. Let me tell you. Okay, I'm going to ask you this one. You all tell me one of your favorite stories about the other two here.
Either one.
Yeah, all of them. Either. Yeah, just tell me.
But they weren't really.
No, for you might
together.
have a different one for Benji than you'd have for Rojo. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think me and Benji and Rusty played together at the same time. Did we? We ever on the same team at the same time?
I don't think so.
You pretty much left after
97,
Rusty got caught up.
I think.
I was gone. Were you in the big leagues in
97.
'94, Benji, with the Rangers?
No.
95?
94. Yeah.
Well, then we were.
Yeah,
that
It
was
was
in
95. In 95.
Okay.
95 is when we were together.
Okay, I'll tell you a real quick Benji story.
It could be
I'll
after
be right
baseball
back.
too.
I'm
I
gonna
gotta
do
go to
you
the
right,
bathroom.
Ro. I'm gonna do you right, Benji. No, I remember this is a real quick one. We were running in off the field in the in Arlington. I think it was Arlington. And Benji's playing short, I'm playing second. So we get to the dugout about the same time. And Benji goes, "Hey, dude, you see that girl up there above the dugout?" And I was like, "No, Benji, I'm paying attention to the game." And I went in the dugout. You remember that? You remember that? No, you do.
Yeah.
You made,
Yeah. For me, I'll tell you what, it was the first time I got to play with Rusty, and like I said, it was in Double A. We had to play with him on the team. We had played together when we were in instructional league, when he used to give me a ride to the ballpark, and he was the elder statesman, right? Him and Terry and D. Oliver were kind of the older guys when we went to instructional league. But I remember getting to Double A. So like I said, I was going to be extremely excited to get to Double A, and as it turns out, I went to the big league and then came back down to Double A. And I knew Rusty was a good hitter, and but it was just impressive to see the season that he had, and just how he went about the way he played, how he got pissed off. It was a learning. You had to learn to play with Rusty.
When to approach him.
Yes. I think that's when it had to be one of the Latin guys started calling him Culo Rojo, and he's like, "What the hell does that mean? I understand Rojo, but what's Culo Rojo mean?" And I tried to hold it for him for a while until he got really pissed and said, "Look, man, they're just calling you a red ass." He goes, "Okay, I get that."
That's true.
It was awesome to play with him, and but you know what? He had fun. He had fun, and he had fun in his way, and we had a lot of fun, especially that year. I think that was one of the best years that I ever had. It was a great group of guys. But he when you saw how intense he was about his craft, even at, like I said, obviously at a young age, being only in Double A, it was impressive, and it was fun to play with him. It was fun to tease him and make him get a little more Rojo.
Well, thank you, Benji. I didn't know you felt that way about me.
Okay, red ass. I mean, Rojo.
Well, I got the two. Benji kind of alluded to it. I gave Benji a ride every day to instructional league. We used to stop and get a Zero bar and a Coke every single day. All right, so you have to call you as an 18-year-old kid, number one pick, and every single day it was back and forth. But it was good though. We were friends. I was not about his only friend, but I was the only guy that ever talked to him, like besides at the field, you know. But we're in Boston. We get a fight. Frye's with the Red Sox. We get in a fight. Lou Frazier charged him out on, I think it was Eric Gunderson, and so everybody comes crashing in, and you know, Roger Clemens gets up there and he's got Lou Frazier by the neck, and I'm standing outside the pile looking around, and Frye's in there trying to get in the middle of the pile. And I just grabbed my shirt and I said, "What are you doing, Frye?" He said, "I want to get on ESPN." And I said, "Shut up, man, just stand here." I want to get on ESPN. I'm like, dummy.
Was he with the Rangers then, or was he with Boston?
The Red Sox. I said, "What are you doing?"
He was with Boston.
Yeah. Stupid.
Okay, so now I think Frye's going to claim this one, but was Frye the biggest prankster out of the three of y'all?
Yeah.
I would say yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
So I want to know it doesn't have to be from either one of y'all three. It could be anybody else you saw. What is the biggest prank you ever saw played on somebody? It doesn't have to be one of y'all three or someone else here pulling it off, but what's the best and biggest prank you saw played on someone? And I hope it involves Will Clark, but go ahead.
I pulled a prank on Will Clark.
What'd you do?
Do you remember this, Rojo?
Oh, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, well, he broke one of my – Will was the sheriff, okay? So Will always had to monitor how many bats you had in the dugout or things like that. He put a sign in that little area behind the dugout and said only 2 bats per player and all this. So, and over the course of a homestand, you might bring a couple, 5, 6 bats down there. By the end of the homestand, you got 5 or 6 bats in the bat rack. And so when I was with Boston, Will was playing with the Rangers. I left one of my bats laying there, and he broke it. He stepped on it before the game. And, I'm getting ready for the game, and I, go grab my bat, and I'm like, who broke my bat? And Will Cordero calls me over. He says, Juan Gonzalez told me he saw Will Clark break your bat. I was like, are you serious? He stepped on it and broke it. I was pissed. So I went to Matt Whiteside. I said, Whitey, get me a Will Clark bat. So he got me a Will Clark bat. When we went to Texas, I gave it to my friend. I said, cut this up in 10 pieces with a skill saw. He cuts it up. I bring it to the field. I put it in a Reebok shoebox. Then the night before was Will Clark giveaway jersey. So I put a Will Clark jersey in there. And Mike Hamilton helped me write this note. You guys know Hambone. And it said, the night before, Will hit a sac fly to shallow center that the shortstop caught. That Goody was so fast, he tagged up and scored on a 180-foot sac fly. And Will Clark was at home like this with his fist up in the air. So I was like, the note. I wrote on the note, I says, Dear Thrill, thank you for breaking my bat in Boston. There were no more hits left in it anyway. Thought I'd return the favor since you were so excited over your 180-foot sac fly last night. Your friend, Jeff Frye. And put it in a shoebox, and Joe Macco delivered it to Will in the locker room. And he looked at it in front of the whole team and threw it in the garbage. And I got to first base 3 times that night.
Oh, my God.
And Will was like, you leave another bat out there, I'm going to break it next time, too. It's so funny.
What about you guys? Anything y'all saw from anybody that you remember?
Well, yeah, there's a lot because everybody could get to me a little bit, so I got a lot of stuff done to me. But the funniest thing I ever thought to me, Roger McDowell, he right-handed pitcher, played with him in 1995. He used to have, this before internet and all that stuff, he used to have a paper every day, right? And so I'd come in and I'd say, and I was second year in the big leagues, I said, hey, when you're done with that, can I see the sports page? I mean, this was like on a daily occurrence. And so one day it was Sunday, and I come in and he's sitting there, and I said, hey, Roger, when you get done with that? He said, nope. And I said, okay. I'm like, what the heck's this problem? So I go start to my locker, and the lockers are probably how tall, guys? I don't know, 10 feet tall?
Yeah.
8 feet, and probably how deep?
Yeah.
3.5
I've seen them.
4 feet?
Yeah.
3 or 4 feet. 4
3
feet
or 4
deep.
feet. My locker, everything was out of it, and the entire locker, top to bottom, front to back, was stacked with papers, like 4 newspapers.
That's good.
That's a good one.
What about you, Benji? Anything?
Man, there's so many. There's so many. It just seems like every year there was something being done. I'll tell you what. Latter part of my career with Anaheim, there'd be stuff happening, and it was actually a thing every day in the clubhouse before the meetings, and there was a lot of stuff. But so many are coming to mind. It's hard to really pick one out.
Okay, this is the question that's going to be the toughest, but I got to ask it. So when did you guys know, you know what, it's over? This is it. I'm probably going to have to go ahead and hang them up. When was the time you knew? Rusty, you had some injuries. I know that. But when was it? Was there a moment of clarity where you went, you know what, I think this is it?
For me, I wanted to, but my body wouldn't let me. I had 9 surgeries in 2 years. And I mean, I tried, and and it just wasn't happening. And it's like Jim Sundberg says, you know, big leaguer has a cookie, and you either eat it all or you don't. I ate about 3/4 of mine because I had some years left, and
Yeah.
I just, my heart wanted to, but my body just, I didn't want to fight it no more.
I can't imagine. How about you, Frito?
I definitely remember mine. It was my last year in AAA, 2002. I was playing for Louisville Bats for the Reds organization, and my back was hurt all the time, and I was having to get my back adjusted during the game 2 or 3 times. And like the early morning flights, I couldn't even stand up straight. And my teammates were like, "Go home, dude. What are you doing?" But I stuck it out. And about 4 months into the season, the lineup was out, and I was hitting second and playing second base. And then they activated Ruben Mateo from the DL, who y'all remember Ruben was supposed to be his can't miss prospect.
Oh yeah,
Well, at this point of his career, he wasn't very good, right? He really wasn't even a prospect anymore. But the Reds, Jim Bowden loved Ruben, so they changed the lineup. Now I'm hitting 7-hole playing left field. I'm standing out in left field. I'm hitting over 300, and now I'm hitting 7-hole playing left field. And I was just standing out there. I was like, man, I don't think this is going to happen. So I called Mike Hamilton after the game. I said, and I told him what had happened. I said, I think I'm done, dude. I think I'm ready to come home. He goes, well, go tell him. Next day I showed up at the field. It was a Sunday day game. I was 35, so they usually gave me Sundays off. And I walked in the manager's office, Dave Miley, and I said, you got a minute? He goes, yep. I said, I'm going to the house. He goes, you just got the day off. I said, no, Skip. I said, I'm going to the house today. Thank you for everything, but it's time to go. My teammates tried to talk me out. I packed my stuff and left, and that was it.
That's got to be tough. I know, but there's a time. What about you, Benji? Did you just have a moment or a moment of clarity, or?
Yeah, for sure. There was a moment. I was after I played in the big league and played a couple years in AAA. I went and played in the Mexican League, in Summer League, and I actually had played 5 years. By this point, I was 39, about to turn 40, or 39, about to turn 40, and I found myself one day in the clubhouse. Back then, I don't remember what the app was, but I could see my son playing. So my wife would turn it on, kind of like FaceTime type deal.
Yeah.
And I'm watching it, and I was way more interested in watching him play than even getting myself ready for the game. So it's like 10 minutes before the game, and in between innings, as I was changing kind of in between innings when they would take the field or come in, and with no thought whatsoever about who we were facing, who the pitcher was. I mean, my preparation just went by the wayside, and I said, you know what, this is it. It's I'm done. There's no. It started to feel like work, you know, and
oh yeah.
And that's the worst thing that I think you could do. I mean, I loved playing up until that year. That year I was more concerned with other stuff, and it really felt like work. And I said, man, this is it. I'm done.
You know, and for someone like me who didn't play, but I traveled a lot for years. And I remember the time I wanted to quit traveling, kids. I mean, kids were doing stuff when I was out of town, and, you know, I was having to get the little video or do whatever. And it's like, you know, it was always fun to travel, even when business, to get to do that. But there's a point where you're like, God, I'm missing a lot. So I could see that. And I'm glad it's that way. I hate it. I love that it was the kids, but when your back's hurting like that, and Rusty, you say 9 surgeries. I mean, I can't imagine the toll on your body of doing that. Besides playing, what do you miss the most?
For me, I think these guys will agree. It's just the camaraderie. You don't have that camaraderie in the clubhouse, and you know, there's a different language in the clubhouse. There's a different set of rules. Anyways, I can't speak for today, but back then, a different set of rules, meaning nobody's off limits. It's just fun to go and be a part of a group of people that you are all pulling for the same thing. You're going to battle with every day. That's what I miss. All the peripheral stuff.
Me too.
Yeah.
That's what I miss. I miss just hanging out with the guys, goofing off and just ragging on each other, nobody taking it personal, and knowing, once, when you start developing those type of relationships and friendships, and then you go into the game, it feels like everybody's pulling for the same cause and things like that. And I mean, you feel bad when your friend fails or makes a mistake. You feel bad for him.
Yeah.
We're all out there trying to do good all the time, but obviously in this game, you can't do that all the time. And so you just, it's like these guys are like they become like brothers. And I just miss the time in the locker room playing cards and talking smack to your buddies and going out and having a beer afterward and just hanging with your boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I guess the best way to describe it for somebody that hasn't lived it is try and put in having a cookout or a barbecue with only your closest guy friends.
Yeah.
Right. And then multiply it by 10,
Right.
and it's every day.
Every
day that, and you hang out with, you do have your group, but then there's days you go eat with another guy or you have a relationship with some guys during batting practice, the guys you hit with, the guys that you take ground balls with, the guys you go to the cage with, the guys you work out with, the guys you go dinner with, because there's some guys that maybe don't hang out and drink beer. So like for me, I had different groups. I'd hang out with the Latin guys, I'd hang out with the American guys, the guys that played golf, the guys who played card with, the guys you have a beer with. I mean, it was a family, and yeah, you might picture yourself being in a large family, right? And you do one thing with one brother and you care not to do something with another one, but you care about all of them, and you'll do anything in the world for any one of them. And that's kind of how it is every year. Might be a brother you don't really like and you kind of stay away from, but then there's some that you're going to gravitate to.
I noticed you pushed away from Jeff there. Did you don't want to?
Yeah.
I made the mistake as a position player of hanging out with a lot of pitchers. Now, the reason that is a mistake is because they play once every 5 days. So those other 4 days, they're getting after it. And when you hang out with those guys all the time.
So you're talking about Whitey right now?
I'm talking about Whitey and Pav, and you know who I'm talking about.
Whiteside. Are you talking about Whiteside?
Yeah.
Doug Witt.
Yep.
When you're hanging out with a starting pitcher and a bullpen catcher, you're in trouble.
Yep.
I've got a Whiteside story in Richmond, Virginia. I was on business, and he was playing for AAA at Wilton Scranton Wilkes-Barre. Yeah, I guess it's the Phillies back then. And so I got in from what I was doing. I was going to go to the bar and have a beer. And I had actually gone to the Richmond game, and Richmond Braves were playing. And Whiteside came in to relieve that game. And I was like, oh, wow, Whiteside. I was a Ranger, grew up a Ranger fan and from Texas. So I went back to the hotel, didn't even think about it, was going down. And Whiteside walks out of this room while I'm walking down the hall and starts walking. And I go, Whiteside? And he was shocked. He was like, well, yeah. And I said, I'm from Dallas. And he was like, oh. So we sat there and had a couple beers, real nice guy. And then I just remember telling him, they gave you the loss there, and it wasn't his fault. It was actually an error, but they said the losing pitcher was Whiteside. He goes, well, that ain't right. He started getting pissed. And I said, hey man, I'm just a messenger. Don't kill me. I'm just telling you what they said there at the stadium. So talk about what you guys are doing now. Rusty, you've got the Rusty Greer baseball school. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So, I do, I teach defensive stuff. So long story short, I was giving hitting lessons, and one day I'm in there, I'm cage blind. I've been there 5 hours, and I had a break. I'm looking around, there's instructors everywhere and kids everywhere. And I said, where are we missing a boat with these young men? And I said, it's defense. So I started a school where I just teach defensive stuff, and I learned from some pretty good people. I'm an outfielder by trade, but I spent 2 years learning to play first base under a guy named Perry Hill. And these guys know Perry.
Yeah.
Probably the best infield instructor. He was doing a lot of things then before there was Twitter and Instagram and all this stuff. And now you see all these guys who are putting it out there. But he was saying the same thing in the early 90s, maybe just in a little different fashion. He didn't have the platform to put it out. Not that he's even that type of person. So I learned to play first base under him. And what I would do is I would go every day. He was our roving guy. He'd come in for 5 days a month. I would go be his catch guy. So I would get my work done, and he would have the second baseman out, shortstop out, and I'd go be the catch guy for him and listen. And so, I teach the defensive side of baseball is what I do.
Yeah, I saw some of the videos of the kids you work with. I mean, it seems like really positive what you do. I mean, I've tried to teach it myself if I could teach anything, it'd be some infield stuff. That's what I played growing up and all of that. And there is sometimes there is that lack of fundamentals, especially on the defensive side. It's very important. I mean, if you want to be it's great you can hit a ball 400 feet, but if they can't put you on the field somewhere, you better be hitting about 390 or something. I mean, you're a liability. You got to do some stuff on defense, that's for sure. Frye, I know you are, Jeff, you're an agent. You got Shigon going right now. Tell us about that. We've heard it a million times. I love this story.
I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none. I've been a sports agent for 18 years. Also do some keynote speaking, and really that's probably my next venture is going around and speaking to high schools and colleges and things like that. Started the Shigon kind of just as a joke, and now we're about to start selling Shigon t-shirts, and that's been a lot of fun. Before we get done, I'd really like for you to ask these two guys about some of the stuff they're seeing taught, just so we can get it, my perspective isn't the only perspective that's out there, because I think it's a problem in youth sports today with some of the stuff they're teaching kids, and that's kind of just kind of running with this thing and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, and it's really funny because, like you said, you weren't out there trying to attack any hitting instructor. You weren't trying to. But when someone starts, I'll never forget when the guy said, "What are your credentials?"
Right,
and I sat there and went, let's see, 290 hitter and 9 years in the big leagues. I'm going to say he outdid me in my 2 days at a junior college. So I don't know. Maybe he does that. I do want to hear now, Benji, you're managing. So anything else going in the hopper right now before we come back and talk about what they're learning today?
Yeah, been managing now over the last 6 years. I've gone down and managed 4 seasons. Been pretty fortunate. Been pretty successful. Won the championship 3 out of the 4 years. And when I'm back home, I work with some kids here locally, and had a 9-to-5 job at our family's company where we do fire protection. But I mean, obviously, still my passion is baseball, and I'll always find a way to stay in the game some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. So, and what Jeff was talking about, have y'all seen some of these wild videos that these guys do? I mean, look, I'm your guys' age. I'm 52 years old. I'm probably older than everyone here. Jeff's older than me. We'll call him the old guy. But I know when I was growing up, I see some of this stuff. I was about Jeff's size playing young. I was smaller. There's no way trying to teach me to drive a ball like that is crazy. It was about putting the ball through the zone, putting a barrel on the bat, and making contact. And that's what I was taught. If you put a ball in play, there's better things happen in play than if you're not hitting it. I was floored by what they're teaching some of these kids.
Benji?
Yeah. It's gross, man. It's gross. It's one of the things that I tell kids, young kids, is you have to realize who you are. And these guys are all trying to teach, and it sounds great, and they use big words to where kids don't understand. Sometimes we use small words and that we don't understand them as baseball players, right?
Right.
They try to use these big words, and I think they brainwash the parents and the kids into saying, okay, well, hey, that sounds pretty, new. And they, you hear launch angle in the big leagues, so hey, I'm going to teach you how to launch angle. It doesn't work for everybody, right? It doesn't work for everybody. And I'll give you an example. I tell some of the kids sometimes, I'm like, hey, can you dunk a basketball? And they go, no. I'm like, so would you go to the gym and just continue to try and dunk the ball knowing that you can't dunk it?
Yeah.
Would you go out there for an hour and try and do that? And it's like, no, of course not. I'm like, all right, so practice layups, practice free throws. And on the baseball side is learn to hit the ball the other way, learn to take a pitch inside and turn on that one. So learn to do what the pitch allows you to do, and what are your strengths, and work on your strengths, but then work on your weaknesses and become a hitter. Understand this game, and I think we'd all agree on, is about understanding situations and being successful in those situations, whether it's on defense or whether it's on hitting, especially hitting. If you don't have a clue on because all you practice is taking a big cut and hitting the ball deep, all right, there has to be somewhat of a two-strike approach, and the two-strike approach doesn't have to be a physical adjustment. It can just simply be a mental adjustment, and that's one of the things that I think is missing, is that you know, like what Rusty's doing is doing the things that other people won't do and can't do, because it's not the what seems to be the moneymaker. Everybody claims to know hitting when it's more simple than they're making it out to be. When I see some of the videos, and I think Jeff hit on it one day, and he said, "Hey, I don't remember ever using anything other than a baseball bat or something that resembled a baseball bat to hit a ball." Yeah. I mean, you know, nets, and I said, if you see a PVC pipe, run the other way. Just put your hand on your pocket and your wallet and run the other way. It's just it's more simple than they make it out to be. And some guys have it and some guys don't have it. You know, I'll tell you what, the guy that said something, and I mean, that guy should be put in jail, that criticized Jeff's son because his son didn't do. I'm like, hey, Mickey Mantle's kids didn't make the big leagues. Yeah. You know, where's Barry Bonds' kids or Ted Williams' kids? It's not all DNA, you know. You gotta be born with the that thing that I think all three of us had, is that desire to want the drive. I have two kids, same mom, I think same dad, right? And one loves baseball and the other one doesn't. You know, it is what it is.
Yeah, they got to have a drive for it. I mean, they really do. I mean, there's you got talent, and you can take that talent, and if you've got enough talent like you guys, but there's got to be drive. How many guys have you seen that had ungodly talent, but maybe they weren't driven to succeed and just kind of flaked out, maybe didn't really love it? It drives me crazy. I think when you're questioning a big leaguer and what he says, and who not necessarily calling you out and saying that you're an idiot, he's just having fun or whatever, and then you think that your way's the only way. Really, I mean, Jeff, are you the one that said that your best hitting coach was Rudy Jaramillo, and you don't have any idea what his swing looks like?
Yes. I never saw Rudy swing. Never.
He just helped you.
They would all three probably say he was the best too. All two of them.
Yeah.
Both all of them.
Now, this could be a whole, I could sit and do a whole podcast just on all of this right here, because there's certain ways I believe that you hit, and right or wrong, my personal opinion is, and I'll argue all day long, you cannot teach somebody to hit. You can teach mechanics.
I agree with that.
You can teach approach. You can teach, but you can't teach them to hit.
No.
Don't care what kind of, don't care. You can't teach them to hit. Secondly, I'm not I'm a little more open-minded than Frye. Like, if I want to know what these things are, what are they accomplishing? What are they doing? Right. Because I believe in hitting that a lot of the stuff that I see being taught is supposed to happen naturally in the swing. So now as a hitter, if I'm having to think about doing certain things that are supposed to happen naturally, when I go to the plate, my mind's clouded.
Yep.
As a hitter, I can't hit with a clouded mind. It's like Tony Gwynn said. He said, my job was to hit the ball as hard as I could every time I went up there, and I didn't care how I got it done. Okay, and Tony Gwynn was pretty good. Now, did he hit a lot of home runs? No, he didn't. But I'm going to say he was probably the best hitter in the game ever.
In y'all's day and age, for sure.
Yeah, and so I do believe certain things about the mechanics of the swing and the approach of the swing. There's sequences that have to happen, but all you're trying to do is put yourself in the best position possible consistently to give yourself a good chance. Now, the problem that I see with all this is everything is done off of a tee. So you give me a month, and I can create a beautiful swing off a tee.
Right.
I don't care who it is. Well, I can't say that. You got to have a little skill, a little athleticism. But the problem is, the ball is not on a tee. The ball's moving, so you're going to be out front. You're going to miss hit balls. The whole launch angle thing, I think that's a direct relation of the elevation of the ball. A turbo sinker is going to go on the ground, where an elevated fastball is going to go in the air. Well,
Yeah.
people say, well, Christian Yelich, we have this whole Twitter thing about Christian Yelich. He's more successful this year because he made some adjustment. No, we don't know maybe he saw more high breaking balls. Maybe he laid off sliders down and in and hit high fastballs. We don't know. And so there's a lot.
Hey, teach me how to do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes into all this stuff that you can't teach somebody to hit. And there's guys out there that will call me an idiot. I know there are. I can teach you to hit. No, you can't.
No.
You can either hit or you can't. Now, you can teach the mechanics of the swing, but you can't teach somebody to hit. And at the end of the day, hitting is –
it's what keeps you in the big leagues.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to add some. Sorry, my computer died a second ago. That's why I'm in a different place right now.
Yeah.
But what is
I've
the
had a
thing?
beer there.
Yeah. These guys are teaching a swing, not to hit. They're teaching a swing, and the swing that they're teaching is basically they're teaching everybody the same swing. Okay, and if you watch a baseball game, you're not going to see two guys who have the same swing, the same setup, the same anything in a baseball game. So why are we teaching everybody to hit with this one particular swing and practice on a ball that is not moving? Okay, now I posted some videos of me playing during my career. I swung at balls in the dirt, inside, up in the zone. You can't hit every pitch with the same swing. And I think that's the problem. Like Rusty said, some guys can hit and some guys can't. You know, some guys, everybody can improve a little bit, but you're not going to teach somebody who can't hit a lick to hit. It just doesn't happen. We've seen it. The guys we've played with, you know, there's a reason why some guys are backup catchers.
Yeah.
Because they can't hit.
Yeah.
They could play in the big leagues for a long time as a backup catcher, but you're not turning that guy into an everyday player because he just can't hit enough to be there all the time. And that's, I think, the thing is the swing. And there's just –
Well, and you know, and Jeff's right. We're always taught to keep your hands up, swing down the hill. But when you really look at the swing, everybody's got a natural arc to their swing. There's a natural arc that happens. And what for me is, I think when you start manipulating that natural arc, that's when you get the whole hitting guru, you know?
Yeah.
Certified hitting guru.
You know, that's you start manipulating things that should be a natural swing path on a certain plane. Then that's when I think you start getting in trouble. Now, I'm not going to say that some of the things that are being done aren't good drills and all this stuff.
Sure. Muscle memory. So, you know.
Yeah, a lot of those things are so microscopic in the swing that should be a natural happening when you go to hit the ball. You know, and if they're not happening naturally, here again, I don't think you can teach somebody to hit.
Yeah,
and certain guys can do it. I'll give you an example. Here's a really good example. Do we all agree that Derek Jeter is a great hitter?
Yeah.
He's a great hitter for all of his career. Why isn't anybody trying to hit like Derek Jeter? Because you can't.
Yeah.
You can take the best 20 hitters in baseball right now and say, hey, change your swing to hit like Derek Jeter. You're going to ruin at least 19 careers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you can't do it. It can't all be the same. And he has a very different swing, kind of like Chris Bryant. Chris Bryant, it works for him, but you probably can't find maybe more than one or two guys that have these very, very unique swings, and they make it work for them. The more repetitive swing, as far as not by an individual, by different people, are the swings that are more like Miguel Cabrera or those type of guys where it's more conventional and the swing path is more conventional. I can tell you this year I had guys, and they're at a professional level, right? And I had two guys that worked the same way. One guy had been very successful in the summer league, and I had to pull him aside one day and I show him video and say, look, what you're working on in the cage, unfortunately, is exactly what you're doing on the field, but you're not making the adjustment. All of a sudden, they're just elevating the ball on you, and you can't get the bat head there. He goes, yeah, but I just had success. I'm like, yeah. You also played on a small field, basically like Colorado. He played in Mexico City, where it's in the summer, where it's a small field. The ball flies, so his line drives because of the way his swing was. He'd hit top spin line drives, and it would hit him out because the guy's 6'4", and 240 pounds. But all of a sudden, he went and played in a big field, and now his top spin line drives that were home runs are top spin outs because he's playing in a big field. I'm like, you have to adjust. You have to be able to adapt, whether it's your swing is not versatile at all, right? And that's kind of like, I think Rusty and both Jeff mentioned, you have to have a versatile swing because you don't take the same exact swing on a pitch down and in as you do on a pitch up and away. And we saw it with Mike Trout. Mike Trout, they started attacking him up. Not to say that he struggled. He struck out a bunch, and he had to adapt, right, and become more versatile with that pitch, knowing that they're going to try and get him out that way, to where his success has always been good, but he started striking out less, and he adapted in some way, shape, or form without affecting his performance on the other pitches. You can't just have a swing that's for one pitch.
That's and then the argument a lot of people make is, well, if you have good pitch recognition, you'll lay off that pitch. Brother, it ain't that easy. It's just not that easy. And that's something else. I see these people talking about, we also, I've seen things where they say we teach pitch recognition. You can't teach pitch recognition.
No.
You cannot teach pitch recognition. That happens. That's a natural. Some guys are better at it than others. It just doesn't happen. And I'll argue all day long on that fact. But you can't.
I can back it up.
If you watch the Tony Gwynn 30-30 or whatever it was, they show some swings of his that were, spot on, man. I'm talking about beautiful swings. But they showed just as many where he was out front, his rear end was out, he's reaching for a ball. But I tell you what, he doubles down the line.
Yep, I saw that.
He was the left. And
I can use this as an example, exactly what you're talking about, Rusty. I coached my kids, and we would go to like DBAT or one of the facilities. And so I'm trying to work with them doing that. And so then I go into one of the cages and turn it up to, I think, 85 or 90. Well, it took me about 4 pitches. Then I start roping them. And they're going, where did you play? What did you do? I said, if the pitch is going to come down the middle, 85 every time, eventually I'll put a barrel on it. Right, I said, I can just sit right there and do that. I said, the problem is, when I go up against a pitcher, it's not going to come right here every time. They move it around everywhere, and I said, I can't do that. Right. That's why they're in the big leagues. They know how to pitch recognition, do that kind of stuff. I said, you throw a 90-mile-an-hour at me 100 times at the same spot, eventually I can at least put a barrel on it and start hitting it. But that's not how it is in a game. That's not how it works coming from there. So that's why I find it ridiculous. This has been great, guys. I really appreciate it. We're going to do one thing with Rusty. I've already done it with you two guys. I call it the home run game. Y'all remember we played this game with y'all?
Yep.
The home run game. Rusty, I played baseball from the time I was 6 till 2 days in college, and that's a whole story itself. I hit 1 home run over a fence in my entire life, my junior year in high school. I will always remember it because it's the only ball I ever hit over the fence in my life. Do you remember the first ball you ever hit over a fence and how old you were?
I do, actually.
Okay. Tell us.
I was in Albertville, Alabama. I was 11 years old, and I was playing at, I forget the field's name. I hit it straightaway center field. It's a Little League field, so it wasn't real long.
Sure, yeah.
Big bomb.
Yeah.
200-footer.
Now, so here's the one that's the best. So you go from that day till the end of your career. What's the one ball, the one bomb? The moment you made contact, the moment you could have even been in minor leagues. It could have been whatever. You hit it, you barreled it, and it was a bomb, and you were like, that is by far and away the biggest bomb I've hit.
It was in the Kingdom. Andy Bennis threw it, and I hit it in the third deck in the Kingdom. and it was like the 10th ball that was ever hit up there. I mean, I literally, it was on the pull side, obviously, down the line, and I literally, it's the best ball I ever hit in my life.
And when
everything was right there.
Be honest, did you watch it?
No, I was not a watcher. I ran it. Because back then they would actually throw at you.
Yeah, that
Jeff,
doesn't sound like a Judy to me, bro.
Yeah, Jeff, what was yours? You said, where did you say your biggest one was when you hit it? You said about 440, wasn't it?
Yeah, they couldn't measure it back then. We didn't have those type of things. I'm sure it went at least that far. No, I hit it in old Milwaukee Stadium, County Stadium off Cal Eldred, and for whatever reason I hit really well off Cal Eldred, and he threw like low to mid 90s four-seamer. He threw it right down the middle, and I just got all of it to the left, straightaway left, maybe a little bit left center, and it was probably like 20 rows. And I mean, that's a big fly for me. Mine were usually paint scrapers.
Remind me where yours was, Benji.
I had two. I went second deck in Oakland, down the left field line.
With the Rangers?
Yeah, with the Rangers off of, I think, Steven Taveros. If I remember him, it was being him. And then the other one, I don't remember who it was against, but it was also it was at the ballpark with the Rangers, and it was over the bullpen, the closest over on the center field side of the bullpen. So it was a little bit right of center, about 7-8 rows up over by where. So that was a pretty good farm. That one was actually a line drive, so that was pretty good.
Oh, man. That's it. Well, guys, listen, I'm going to wind this thing down. I've kept you guys long enough. We've been here an hour and almost hour and a half at least going here. I really appreciate it. Once again, I want to say thanks to Jeff Frye, Benji Gil, and Rusty Greer. Guys, I appreciate it. It was a big blast. We'll put this out on YouTube. We're going to have it on the podcast will be down later today. I can't thank you guys enough for coming on. Rusty, we'll try to get together in a couple weeks. Maybe we'll do just a show. I want to get with you and talk about all your growing up, where you played, everything on that. But like I say, yeah, I'd love to do it. Guys, appreciate it so much. Thanks for coming on. It's been the Rangers Nation podcast. Remember to follow us at Twitter at Rangers Nation Pod, at Rangers Nation Pod. And like I say at the end of every one of these, or everything I write, nerd out.